Hello guys, my name is Artem Iskahov, and I want to tell a story about what happened tonight. I killed my roommate and had her twice. This is the start of a sickening confession letter written by the killer. Supposedly, he took 12 hours to write it before posting it to a social media site. It was a graphic message to both his and his victim's parents, begging for forgiveness. Officers soon found both his and the body of Tatiana Strakova in the flat that they shared together. Before we start, if you find this video fascinating, then at the end, please drop it a like and let me know what you thought about the case. It helps the channel. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Thank you. Tatiana was a straight-A student at Moscow's Higher School of Economics. Her ex-boyfriend, Artem, was attending Bauman Moscow State Technical University. The two had dated in the past for about 2 years, but their relationship had evolved into a friendship. Tatiana was dating another guy from St. Petersburg, and it was Tatiana who insisted that she did not want any more romance with Artem, but he was madly in love with her. But he didn't have the confidence to say anything, and he kept his emotions to himself, eventually leading him down a path of madness driven by lust and jealousy. Before this, Artem was a great student and was seriously interested in Java programming, but in the last year, he began to drink often and he was using light substances. He had also stopped attending university. A friend of Artem described him as a good guy, and he knew how other people felt, and he was seriously fond of music. When he started university, he moved out of his parents' house and decided to move in on his own, but he could not afford the rent by himself. So this is when he decided to get a flat with his then girlfriend Tatiana, despite their relationship always being on and off again. When they actually moved in together, they had fully broken up. This caused arguments often in the apartment, but what annoyed Artem the most was Tatiana's indifference to him. After Artem had found Tatiana with one of their mutual friends, he hit the roof, and Tatiana offered to move out, but unfortunately this did not happen. Although Artem claimed that he loved her very much, he continued to date girls with whom he met on Tinder, which I feel shows the true depth to his emotions. Nothing foreshadowed the horrific events that were about to take place, but when Tatiana began to show affections towards Artem's friend, this spelled doom for the pair. He said in his confession, "I got tired of listening to her explanations of why she doesn't want to drink with me, and seeing her flirt with my friend." Artem's heart ached, driving him into a dark depression. He sought the guidance of a psychologist and numbed himself with medication, but as time passed, his resentment festered and grew into a monstrous anger that consumed him. His emotional state had reached a boiling point, reaching a catastrophic outcome on the 22nd of January 2018. He had already decided to kill Tatiana at the beginning of January, but he waited till the moment felt right. He had thought it through numerous times, and when she walked into the flat that evening, he knew it was time. Tatiana walked through the corridor to her bedroom to go to sleep. As she did, Artem ran up behind her and started punching her in the face. He said, "She came home. I was sitting in the kitchen. She walked to her room. I punched her in the face. She fell on the floor. I punched her a few more times. Blood started coming from her mouth. She asked me to leave. I didn't leave. LOL. At some point, she passed out. Artem sat there staring at her, coming to terms that this was actually happening. He put his hand on her chest and felt that her heart was still beating. He continued, I decided to have her before she got cold. After finishing, I realized that her heart was still beating. He grabbed a knife from the kitchen and with a short swoop, he cut her throat. I don't know how well I did it, but there was lots of blood. Her heart was still beating. The sound of her final breaths were muffled by the pantyhose that Artem had used to plug her mouth to stop the wheezing sound. The floor was also stained with Tatiana's blood. He continued, Then I took the knife and I stabbed her between the ribs on her left side. This is when Tatiana finally succumbed to the brutal attack. Afterwards, he grabbed Tatiana's phone and pretended to be her and reached out to her friends through social media. This further violated Tatiana's memory and added to the heartache of those who loved and cared for her. He said, Next, I had her body once again. Then I decided to write this. Later, I strangled her throat with a rope I had bought to try shibari, Japanese bondage. He admitted that he then went to the kitchen and got something to eat. I'll go and make sandwiches and enjoy this moment while I can. He slept for a few hours before he had his way with her corpse once again. He wrote, She's so cold, just like her feelings for me. He then wrote a message to Tatiana's parents, saying he was ashamed. Forgive me for taking your only child from you. I loved her very much. You know, at this very moment, I've realized what I did. I feel cold, and my hands have started shaking even more. He admitted his disgust with what he had done with Tatiana's corpse. I've ruined the happiness of several people, and for what? In the end, there is only one emptiness that will swallow me up. He claimed he was driven to kill her because of his lust for her. He said, I got mad because of thinking of being with her, so much that I killed her. During all this confession, there is no thought towards Tatiana. It's all about him. Several hours later, he wrote, What have I turned into? Sorry, I cannot atone for my sins. I'll go kiss Tatiana on her cold forehead and prepare myself for death. She lies there dead and cold, with no moving fingers. Farewell, good night, sweet princess. He also wrote a message to his own parents. I am a complete disappointment to you. There is no way back. Remember something good about me at least, sometimes. I did not think everything would end like this. It took 3 hours for one of Artem's friends to see his post, and then they went straight to their apartment. When they knocked but no one answered, they called the emergency services. Once they arrived, they found the body of Tatiana and Artem in the apartment. Although Artem was on medication, psychologists say that the treatment obviously didn't work. A psychologist specializing in trauma said, His behavior reminds me of one of a psychopath. Pathological jealousy, desire to dominate, and violent fantasies in the past. In fact, Artem mentioned that he had thought of killing people since childhood and was harming himself to try and keep such a sordid urge in check. If Artem had gotten proper psychiatric care, then he and Tatiana very well may still be alive. I personally found this case shocking, as not only did Artem take the life of Tatiana so selfishly, but he writes this letter to all the parents as if he's giving some awards speech. I've not come across something so hideously self-indulgent and vile for some time. Murderers like Artem scare me the most, the ones that seem outwardly well-adjusted, but then there comes a moment where they commit a highly violent act. There just seems to be no way to prevent this from happening. That's the end of this episode. Until next time, stay sane.